Buyer's agents are becoming more and more popular these days, but quite a few people still don't know what it actually is that we do. And I guess when you're selling a house, you have someone representing you, which is the real estate agent, and their job is to get you the best price, the best terms and conditions that they possibly can when you're selling your home. But the poor old buyer is often left on their own, and it's just basically a case of buyer beware. So what a buyer's agent does is acts in the best interest of the buyer and help them get the best price and the best terms, and also help them buy the best asset that suits their short, medium and long-term goals. Look, my top 3 tips when it comes to buying real estate are pretty simple. The first one is get to know as much as you possibly can about the seller and their circumstances, because we all want to get a really good deal. But if you can help the vendor get the terms and the conditions that they're after. So for example, they might need an earlier release of deposit, or they might need a short or a long settlement. They could maybe want to rent the property back because they actually haven't found a property yet. So if you can find out some of these things about the vendor and as much as you possibly can, chances are that you can frame an offer that gives them exactly what they want, and in return you get exactly what you want in terms of getting a really good deal. My second tip really links into the first one, and that's to treat the agent really well. Treat them as your friend. Now make no mistake, the real estate agent is acting in the best interests of the buyer. They're trying to get the best price, the best terms and the best conditions for them. But they are the sole conduit of information between the buyer and the seller. So if you start hostile or adversarial against the real estate agent, chances are you're going to be running uphill to try and negotiate a really good deal. So my second tip is to be really friendly to the real estate agent and see them as a really important part of the process. And my third tip is to understand upfront where you're most likely to need to compromise, because there's really 4 variables that any buyer really needs to think about when they're buying a property. It's price, location, size of the land and quality of the dwelling. And let's be honest, most people have a really fixed, when it comes to price, their budget's pretty firm. And location is usually, when it's house versus location, in my experience, location generally wins. So those are the 2 that are probably the least flexible. So it's really about understanding, are you going to compromise more on the size of the land, or are you going to compromise more on the quality of the dwelling? So we get something a bit more established so you can get it in a better area, or do you want something brand new or closer to new where you're going to get a smaller parcel of land? And if you actually know that up front before you actually start the search, chances are it's going to give you such a smoother experience, and you probably will get through the process much, much easier than if you don't know what the compromise is up front. So the number one question that you should ask your buyer's agent is, what's the entire process look like for me with you acting on my behalf? Because there are certain parts of it where you actually are passive, and then there are certain parts where you're really, really active. And if you know those in advance, you can sort of ride the bumps of emotion that come with buying a property. So your buyer's agent is going to take away so much of the stress away from you, but there are times when you are going to be very actively involved. So I think the number one question you should ask your buyer's agent is, can you show me exactly what the entire process is from the very beginning to the very end, so that I'm prepared and understand, and so I can really make sure this process is smooth and really quite straightforward. There's a couple of ways that you can get involved and find out more about buyer's agency services. And the first one is to download the free report that you could see on this page on the top 5 tips for negotiating when you're buying your next property. But if you know that you actually want to do something now and you actually want to have a chat to someone specifically about your circumstances, leave your details here and we'll get in contact with you and have a really good chat about what it is that you need, so we can clarify and understand what that is, so that we can help you develop the tailored and unique solution specifically for you.